Hi guys, I just thought I'd do a little catch up. Not done this sort of thing before like this, but I was doing show us your workshop, and the next thing I wanted to do was showing the milling machine. And this week it's been a bit hectic actually. That's why I've not really done anything this week. The reason being that the other half said the other day, she said, when's the MOT due on my car? And I said, oh, not till next year. I said, I've got them all wrote back at kitchen door, I'll go and have a look. So I did, and it had run out 2 days before. I said, oh my God, memory, old age, innit? I said, and you know why? I had things in my head. It was to do with COVID. When the COVID were out, they give a 6-month grace, didn't they, on MOTs? And both my vehicle and hers were both, well, hers were out of MOT on the 3rd, and this was on the Sunday, I think it was the 4th or the 5th. And mine was out on the 7th, which was the Tuesday. Obviously made the quick phone calls the next day, because it was Sunday, I couldn't ring anybody, and booked them in, but the earliest I could get them in were Thursday. And her car failed miserably. And where we live and where everybody lives and where you live, the speed humps in there everywhere. And I always slow right down for them. I have to do, because most of my vehicles are lowered and stiffened suspension, and I don't want to break it. So I always slow right down, maybe 15 mile an hour. And this is just through the small little town where we live. But she don't slow down. She don't know what slowing down is, so she'll be doing 30, 35 or whatever, and she'll just keep going. And the last time I were in the car, we'd been out somewhere and I'd had a drink, so I couldn't drive. And she just hit the speed bump, a deep, horrible speed bump, just coming into town, and the car literally took off. Anyway, I'm digressing. The car failed its MOT miserably. Both back springs broken. Back, I don't know why back. The guy did say, in fairness to her, the rear springs on that particular model aren't that clever and they do break regularly. And then it failed on a front wishbone, in a bush and the bottom ball joint. So this is all this week. My vehicle passed today, luckily, and it wasn't so bad for me because I'm retired, so I don't need my van much. I don't have to go out in it. I don't really go anywhere, so I were okay. But obviously she wasn't, because she had to go to work. Anyway, all's well that ends well. We've had that done, all finished, re-MOT'd, and we've got a fresh bill of health, so I can get back on track. The point I was trying to make. So I will be doing the milling machine. I suppose, what time we got? It's 5:30. I suppose we could make a start on it now. Let's do it. Okay, so where do we start? We'll start at the bottom. This is the base unit on the back of it. That's the whole base unit, which is about 2 foot high, I think. I have got my tape measure with me so we can check measurements. Yeah, that's a 24-inch base unit. I'm guessing these are homemade, but solid stainless steel feet and adjusters with some lovely domed nuts on the top. The cabinet's quite deep. Let's see, it's quite a depth is that. So the unit, the base tray is 3'1". The cabinet bottom, the main body of it is 25". It's quite a hefty thing. It's nowhere near the size of a Bridgeport or anything like that. So we'll come up then. So there's the tray, and under that rubber mat on the tray is a hole that's been plugged off for the coolant tank, which I believe you can put in the bottom of there. There must be a section that's bodied off on it so that you can use it for coolant, which I haven't got. Then on the side here there's this access door. This is a Tom Senior light vertical, I believe its name, and they do other Tom Seniors. I think there's an M1, an E-type, or the E-type might be the head unit. They're mainly horizontal, and they've got in the behind the dovetail there, in there is the drive for the horizontal, and some people put a vertical head on, a knuckle, call it a knuckle head, and then they have the drive motors at the back, I believe. So yeah, there's this cabinet, which quite a nice thing actually, for storing stuff. So all the bump I've got about my machine I keep in there, my bedweight protectors if I've got the other vice on, but you can see in the casting that this is obviously a standard casting, that they must drill and fix whatever they needed to when they made them for the gearbox going out the back. There's my homemade limit switches. So that's the upper limit, that's just a lock for the Gibbs on the Z-axis drive, the limit switch unit itself, and then down at the bottom there's the bottom limit sprung loaded, so it can drive right from the bottom. By fitting this Z-axis drive, I've actually lost a little bit. I think it's I don't know if it were 1 inch or 1 1/4 inch. If you look back in my videos when I fitted this, I do some measuring. I don't put engine cylinder blocks on here or anything like that, so I don't need so much height, but it is quite. Have a look. That is running so much nicer now. There you go, that's knocked off. So that's right down to the bottom, and it's knocked off on the bottom limit there. So I'll move back so you can see the sort of depth we've got now. That's with the bed as far down as it'll go. So I'll just mount the camera back on this stand from the bed to the underside of the quill, with that wound right down, is 16 inches. 16 inches travel there, which is what, 400 mil to the underside of the quill, not to the beauty of it is that not only does the Z-axis go up and down motorised, that we've also got this, and there's 4 inch on that of travel, which is quite good. Let me just have a drink, I've gone dry. It's a lovely old mill. So there's the quill lock. If you want to lock it anywhere, put something in a cutter or whatever, lock it down. I try to use the Z and not have this down if I'm doing any heavy milling, what I call heavy. So that's that. So that's your coarse feed, if you like. And then on this side, you've got a fine feed. So if you want to use the fine feed, you just lock it in, and then this is your fine feed. You can knock that one back. You don't need to, but I can't find that one. I'll use that. Right, so that's now loose, and you've got your fine feed on there, which is marked out on here. I'm assuming it's millimetres, but you'd think reading that it's thous, because the X, the Y, the X, Y and Z are all in metric. So I'm not sure whether that's metric or imperial, but it's counted up in tens, you know, like 0, 10, 20, 30, up to 100, 110, up to 120. I'm suspicious that that is actually imperial, but it'd be a bit weird if it was, wouldn't it? Okay, so that's what we've got so far. I've got a bedweight protector, or I suppose we'd call it a dovetail protector there. So that follows up and down, and all I've done is I've got some springs on here. In fact, it were a lad that came round one day and said, why don't you just put some springs on there, because it used to stay down at the bottom. So technically that creeps up and follows it. So the bed, the dovetail is always protected, and it's great because it catches all the mess down there, the swarf, etc. This is an X-axis drive that I did using the Mondeo wiper motor, and there's a video online about me making all this. And when this is not in operation, which is not at the moment, so that's unattached. So we've got our movement on the bed there. The stops on this are blocks of steel, and those blocks of steel run along with the bed. And if you want to use the lock, you slacken that thumb wheel and lift up the pin, and you've got a lock. So you can set your stops to wherever you want, and if you're winding by hand, as soon as you get to it, it stops. And then there's one from this end as well, and that winds along. These little bits I've put on here are for this limit switch, because these blocks weren't catching it too good. So basically, when that gets to there, it knocks the X-axis drive off, and same with that one. You just slacken that, turn that over, same as. So that's the X-axis drive that I fitted, and as I say, the only thing I had to do was drill 2 holes in there, which were a shame, but it's fitted and it's permanent, so it's never coming off. And that were a fantastic addition. It saves you messing about winding that handle up and down all the time. The Z-axis, same really. That wasn't it. I do know how much that was now, because I looked on my purchases. It were £137 with that. Because this job was nearly free, that wasn't much, but £137, so I thought that was quite cheap really. And again, it saves you winding up and down. But I mean, if you look at that, you could just about get an engine block on there, couldn't you, if you wanted to mill the top of a block or something. Not that you'd ever do that on a machine like this. You'd do something bigger, wouldn't you? Cincinnati or a Beaver or a, what's them other ones, Bridgeports and the like, which, you know, much bigger. I mean, the top of that, and that's my top of my garage. Bridgeport had barely touching the roof. I'd class this as a medium-sized mill, not a small one. So the awkward thing about it is tramming the head. It's held in 2 half shells, a clamp, sorry, there and there, with a great big bolt, but round the other side there isn't. So it's like a half clamp, isn't it? And when you tap this around to tram it, and you get it bang on, and then you tighten these bolts here, it turns, it pulls it, because it's only got one clamp. If you had two, you could equally tighten it, but because it's only got one, it pulls it round, and it's only a few thousandths of an inch, but if you're tramming, you don't want anything. So it took ages to get it right, and basically I had to have it out of tram so that when I tightened it up, it was bang on, so we're at 90 degrees to the bed, and that worked out. So I'd be damned to ever undo that and start moving around for doing any angle drilling. You do a fixture plate, I would do it, but I don't want to. And then it's got an incremental, I don't know if I can catch that or not. No, it's not focusing, is it? Yeah, there you go. So that's in degrees for the tilt of the head, but of course the zero is only you know, an approximate zero. It's not a definite. You can't just set that to zero and you're trammed in, because you're not. What we got in here? So that's the side cover. There's one at each side, and the poly belt is there. Well, it's not a poly belt, it's a standard V belt in there. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. No, is there 4? No, 3. 1, 2, 3. So there's 3 speeds on that pulley, but not that I'd ever want to use that, because I've just got it on a medium middle one, and I can just play with inverter. So there's no need really to wind that up and down. That's the control panel that I made to replace the little smaller original one, just keeping those buttons and that control. And that, as you might have seen on one of the videos, is for the X-axis drive, which is powered by a 12 volt power supply, which is, I mounted it at the back, if you can see that. That's the 12 volt power supply. I think it's a 10 amp, is it? I think it is. And it wasn't expensive actually, but that powers that, and it powers the digital DRO readout for there as well. And then we've got the main control panel. Isolator on the front. So then you've got your inverter, and that's a Toshiba inverter, and that's got another power supply. It's 24 volt, I think, that one, and some relays in there, and a circuit breaker. I didn't make this. When I bought this milling machine, it came with that, and I haven't done anything to it. I've just left it as it was. And it all works fine, so I'll leave things alone. It was a Sparky though, well the guy got it off. I think it was Doncaster. It worked at some big forge or ironworks or something in Doncaster. Likewise, he'd fitted the DRO, so this DRO is one he'd fitted. I'm sure any of you that have seen my videos seen all this before, but it's a nice DRO with all the functions on it, and it works great. And he'd mounted it on like a stud there, so I just drilled that and put a screw in there, and I just hang all my spanners on it. So but he'd fitted that again. I just remounted it onto this new panel. So he's used this unistrut stuff, but as I say, I'm not going to alter anything, it's fine. And this is the guard for the Z-axis. And he'd obviously machined some of these plates. I know you get some with them when you buy them, but he's obviously machined some himself. And then that's the one underneath, that's for the Y. And then the X-axis one is at the back here and runs all the way along. A bit of a bodge what I did is I sort of just glued the flex that does the 12 volt motor at the end. I couldn't find any other way to get into it easily, and that it could move backwards and forwards with a drive. So that's that. This is the Chinese milling vise that I bought to replace my lovely old Abwood That's a lovely one, and it's probably got a lot more grip than that Chinese one, and it's got ways adjusters and everything on it, you know, Gibbs. But the only problem is it's 4-inch wide, and it only opens 3.25, 3.5 inches or something. So it doesn't open enough, whereas this one will open all the way back at about 5.5 inches. That's the reason I swapped it out. But I have noticed that Abwood does grip better. These are homemade, which I made just to hold it down. Obviously I can move it around wherever I want it, well within notches, because I've got the locators underneath, but there's only a little screw that holds them in. These are a good addition for anybody that's watching this that's got a milling machine. These are a must, absolute must. They stop all the crap getting everywhere, and great just to put your tools down on your drill bits or whatever, and all it is a piece of plywood with another piece that fits in one of the T-slots. Simple. Simple to do. I've another set of those for that other vise, because it's a different shape here. Of course you'll have seen this. This is my stop that I made that fits this side, or it fits this side as well. What else have I done? Well, all that I showed you, I haven't done just that panel, that's all. I've made a little knocking stick for tapping stuff around, this lamp, LED light, which were again eBay, dirt cheap. And then we move up a bit higher, and we've got this came with an 1/2 horsepower motor, and I complained right from day one that it didn't seem to have a great deal of torque, which it wouldn't do, would it? 1/2 horsepower on a machine of that size. But it was 3-phase, an old Russian motor. Excuse me a minute, another drink. But what I didn't know was it was the wrong motor, because somebody had fitted the 3-phase, but it shouldn't have been a half. I believe it should have been 3/4 horsepower from the factory. The Toshiba inverter that I've got that was in it will take a 1 horsepower, 0.75 kilowatt. So I thought, yeah, I'll get a 1 horsepower motor. So I did, and that is it. I bought that online from a motor supplier. It didn't fit. I got the base mounting, you see, it doesn't mount at the side, it mounts on its face. So I had to make this adapter in, which we cut out and drilled and fitted so it fit the original plate. Made a slight adapter for the pulleys and put it all together, and it's been absolutely superb. It's lovely, works great. And that's it for your spanner to drop your well, that's ER25, but to drop any tools out of there, it's got a long 10mm thread all the way down, and bolt all the way down. That's my taco drive. Now, I originally planned to fit that here at the side. I didn't in end, because I thought if I got a spanner on here and I spun round with the spanner, I'd probably hit that and break it. So I fitted it at the back, so that bit of a protection thing really, bit of safety. So show us your milling machine. You've seen it. As I say, a lot of milling machines that you buy now new come with just a base with 4 bolts, and you mount it onto a worktop or your own homemade base. But this came complete with everything. How much did I pay for it? Well, I'm not about to sell it, so it doesn't matter if I tell you. I paid £1,500 for it. I think he was asking £1,800 on their offer, and I gave him £1,500 for it. I know that the nearly non-existent is this model, so to try and find one, there's odd ones you see on eBay, but they're not a vertical, they're horizontal. So that's best of both worlds really. Yeah, I love it. It's great. Just wind that back up. So for most cases, it's around there. With this off now, that when you pull that lever back to the off position, and you know it stops, this still works. All this mechanism still works. So you've still got your control, because all you're driving round is the crown wheel in there. The pinion is not engaged anymore. Well, it is, but it isn't doing anything because the back of it, the clutch has dropped out. So you're not turning this motor. That's the problem with some of those drives where it's like this. I can't leave that engaged and drive that with the hand wheel. I'd break it. It just wouldn't work. And that is a problem with some of them, which with that it's not. You've still got, I mean, it'd have been a shame, wouldn't it, to have taken that lovely wheel off there and not put it back. This is the stop, and it's beautifully made again. I don't know if it's original, but I think it is. It's got the hole there, so I'm assuming it's all original. But beautifully made, absolutely stunning. One thing I want to do, and I'm going to have to use this plate here somehow, is fit another DRO here, a depth, because if I want to cut a 10 thou deep slot, I can't measure it with the quill, so I have to come up 10 thou with the Z to do my cut. Whereas if I could put a DRO either on this side, but I doubt it, I think it's going to have to be here somewhere, probably mounted here somewhere, and then picked up off this. I don't know yet, but they do a nice 4-inch one. MDRO I think it is that do them, and they're quite a nice thing. So I'd have X, Y and Z, and then I don't know what you'd call that, ZZ or Z2, I don't know, but it'd be four different measurements, and it'd be an handy addition to have, because many a time I want to do a shallow cut and I've got to raise the bed to do it, which I'm sure you have on most of them. Okay, so that is the milling machine. So why did I buy it? Well, to be honest with you, the Myford lathe is fantastic. I love it to bits, but you know what, there's a lot you can do with a milling machine, hell of a lot you can do, and until you've got one you don't really know how much you can use one and what you can do with it. They're just fantastic thing to have, no matter what you're making. Milling machine, drilling, accurate drilling, milling machine, a raise of holes, milling machine, you know, anything you want to do, milling machine. Lathes are great for spinning things, you know, cutting things rotary if you like. So yeah, but how come I came to this one? Well, I decided I wanted a milling machine some time ago. Hang on, I'll just edit this in and put my camera back in the holder. So, what we're telling you, why did I get that old British? What I didn't show you on that was the X has got play in the nuts, and I think it's 1.5 millimeters play. The Y has got something like 3 millimeters of play in it. It's a lot. It's too much, really. It wants the nut doing, a new one. Of course you can't buy anything for these, so it needs one making, and apparently there were a guy making them, but he don't do them anymore. So it's an Acme thread. Can't remember whether it's 1/2 inch or 5/8 Acme. I've got all drawings for it somewhere. So it really wants new nuts making, and maybe even the new Acme thread, I don't know. But it's not a problem because you've got DRO, so it doesn't matter how much lash you've got. With the DRO you don't use that, you just read the scale. But again, I'm digressing. Why did I buy this one? I decided, I can't remember, around Christmas time, that I decided I wanted a milling machine, and my plan in my head didn't see a milling machine, anything like that. I was looking at the Siege, whatever they're called, Arc Trade sell them. I think Warco and Axminster. I know there's quite a lot of makes, which I'm sure some of you lads will know all the makes. And I looked at them all, and I started leaning towards the Sieg, which Arc Trade sold. But the problem was that the one I liked, which was the SX 3.5 ZXP, I think it was called, that had the powered column on it. I think it had got a DRO on the quill, and it looked altogether quite a nice Chinese imported milling machine. I don't know anybody who's got one, and I've tried looking on YouTube and I can't find anybody doing a review on that particular model, and maybe I haven't looked deep enough. But that was the one I sort of set me out on, and I can't remember now, it's about £3,500, or was it 2.5? They weren't cheap anyway. And the Sieg seemed to be, of the Chinese imported milling machines, seemed to be not bad. A bit rough around the edges and needed a bit of tailoring and fettling, a bit like that Vice did that I did. Excuse me again. I suffer from a dry throat through cancer treatment, and the radiation left me with no saliva, so I have to drink all the time. When I'm riding the motorbike, I chew chewing gum, and that usually lasts me. I can put a chunk of chewing gum in Leeds, set off and get to Scarborough. By the time I get to Scarborough, it's not a nice piece of chewing gum anymore, but it does the job. So the Sieg I couldn't get, they didn't have any. They were out of stock, and I don't think they believed that they knew whenever they were going to get them back in. And then I had I won't say a fallout, and I don't know how it all occurred, and I wish it hadn't, and I don't know, but the guy that owns it, it more or less said if I had one in stock, I don't know if I'd even want to sell it to you. I don't know whether, I were obviously being critical, because you know I'm a critical bugger, and I must have criticised something, and he didn't refuse to sell me one. He more or less said I'd like to meet you and we'd talk, but he didn't have one, so it were hypothetical. So I thought, well, that's out of the question, a Chinese one. So I started looking, and of course I'm looking at Bridgeports and thinking, whoa, there's no way I'd even get one in this garage. I don't know how I'd have even moved it. So I saw this one, I shot down to see it, fell in love with it and bought it. He split it up for me, did the guy, took the head off, took the column off the base, and took the knee off with all the Z drive and everything on. He took all that off. So he split it into 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. And me and my brother-in-law between us, now luckily my brother-in-law's as strong as hell, I'm not, I'm a weakling. But between us and some bits of metal bar, etc. and ropes, we managed to cart it into the back of my van and then got it here. And then built it back up again, which took us in. Putting that head on were a joke, 'cause we were both stood on a pair of steps each, and we kept not slipping and falling, but we nearly did. We struggled, but we got it back in anyway. And all's well that ended well. Do I regret buying an old British machine over a Chinese import? No. I do. A lot of people that have got the imported ones have trouble with the DC motors and drive boards and various other quirks. Well, this is 3-phase AC, so I'm never going to have that kind of problem unless my inverter burns out. So yeah, I'm glad I bought this, and if I had my time again, I would buy it again, definitely. And all I can say is thank you for watching. So you've seen my old Myford, which again I could have bought a Chinese lathe, but I didn't. And this one, but you know what? It's not just a great little machine that does everything I want it to do, but it looks pretty. It's a nice looking machine. I don't know whether it's colour because I'm not into green, but it just looks lovely. It just looks made beautifully, and it is. It's a great thing. So it shows your workshop. The next bit, I don't know what we'll do, but I've got so much tooling for the lathe and the milling machine that maybe that would be to show next. I'll probably get an arrangement of tooling out on the bench and show it. And then I'll just do a run round in garage showing you all my storage and things that I've built up, and if I can remember how much I paid for it, because believe me, it does not cost a lot of money to build a workshop. You might think it does, but it doesn't. It cost me 100 quid, I think, just over 100 quid to put the wall up, to partition my garage, because I have a long garage, and I put a door on. But okay, I've got the lathe and I've got the milling machine, so there's a few £1,000s there, I know that. But tooling, most of what I bought is either second hand or new old stock, and got good money. I've bought stuff from auctions, usually eBay, but I'm also registered with a few different auction houses, and I've bought stuff from them, which I will show you what I've bought. And cabinets and things like that I've bought, all second hand. I don't think I've bought, well, I have got some Chinese import stuff that I've bought, like a centering unit to find the centre of a piece of work. There's a few bits and boxes up there, and I've got a radius cutter and a few other bits, and I've got this thing here, rotary table. So there's some stuff that I've bought new, but not expensive at all. So we'll end there, and thanks for watching. If you find anything that I'm doing on here interesting, please either subscribe, which will help my channel, because I don't make anything, I'm not doing it for money, I just enjoy it. I enjoy doing it. And give us a thumbs up, please, or even comment, tell me what you think. You know, I've got one like that, but mine's better than yours, don't know, whatever. But yes, I've got a couple of stickers on my board now. Got my own stickers as well, so I can send them out. They're only printed on self-adhesive printer paper. They're not ones I've ordered, and I just designed it myself. So I'm waiting for one from Canada, George in Canada. I can't remember his handle now. Is it George in here? Something like that. Should be coming shortly. So until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.